Ever since George Romero's Night of the Living Dead, pop culture has been obsessed with zombies. According to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, the word comes from the Louisiana Creole or Haitian Creole word zombie, and it's similar to the Kimbudu term Nuzimbi, which means ghost. However, little by little, the word evolved to refer to a person that is rendered mindless by a witch doctor, then entering a death-like state while still animated, and thus becoming the witch doctor's slave. Modern zombie culture has evolved just like the Haitian zombie of the past, with most zombie stories being caused by science gone amok. But what if I were to tell you that there are real life examples of zombies in our world, that exist both within nature and societal constructs? Naturally, you'd be very curious as to what these are and how they exist in the first place. Here on Kinospiracy, we researched real life examples of zombieism in nature. Ophiocordyceps is a genus of fungi comprised of 200 or more species that are still being discovered. It's no surprise, however, that many species of fungi are dangerous, often so because they are toxic to animals and, by extension, humans. What makes Ophiocordyceps so fascinating and so frightening, though, is that they target various different species of insects and infect them via its spores. Once the infection has taken place, the parasite takes control of the brain, altering the insect's behaviors to ensure the likelihood of propagation. Ophiocordyceps feeds on the insects they attach to, growing into and out of their bodies until the insects die. One of these species, Ophiocordyceps unilateralis, specifically infects, controls, and kills carpenter ants native to North America. When unilateralis infects carpenter ants, they turn them into zombies. The ants become compelled to climb to the top of elevated vegetation, where they remain affixed and die. The high elevation allows the fungus to grow and later spread its spores widely. Zoologists have recently made a chilling discovery. They found that a previously unknown species of wasp, known as Zatipata, can manipulate spiders to such an extent that researchers have never witnessed before in nature. The existential horror for these spiders begins when the parasitic wasp dive bombs into the spider proceeding to sting it, temporarily paralyzing the victim. Afterwards, the wasp lays its eggs inside of the spider, or in some cases, even gluing them onto the spider. The wasp, evading retribution, flies off before the spider recovers from its paralysis. After a few weeks, the eggs that hatch from inside the spider start to grow, causing small holes inside the spider's abdomen and draining the spider's blood. The most peculiar part researchers note is that the species of spider, Anelososmius eximius, are social animals, preferring to remain in groups and never straying too far from their colony. In the last stage of development, the larva somehow induces the spider to stray from its colony to remote locations and build a large cocoon out of the spider's web, before killing the spider and growing inside the cocoon. The most frightening part, however, is that researchers are still unsure how the wasps are able to turn the spiders into zombies. Many theories have been put forward, though, such as the larvae injecting molting chemicals into the spider's abdomens, where they are carried to the brain and nervous system and flip certain switches inside the spider's brain. But the mechanisms of such are still a mystery. Reanimating the dead, like Mary Shelley's Frankenstein or Lovecraft's Reanimated, has fascinated writers, filmmakers, and other creatives for hundreds of years. While reanimating the dead might not be a possibility for us, it is a possibility for microscopic organisms. What is worrisome is when those organisms are actually viruses. In 2014, researchers from France discovered a fascinating organism in the Siberian permafrost, a giant virus around 30,000 years old, which they named Pithovirus sibericum. The reason why giant viruses are called this is because while they are still tiny enough to not be seen by the naked eye, they are easily seen underneath the microscope. What makes Pithovirus sibericum different from other viruses is that it is a DNA virus that contains as many as 500 genes. Contrast this with other DNA viruses, such as HIV, which only contains about 12 genes in total, makes giant viruses and their large size particularly dangerous, especially since among all viruses, giant viruses are very tough and almost impossible to break open. Special environments, such as deep ocean sediments and permafrost, are very good preservers of microbes and viruses because they are cold, oxygen-free, and dark. When reanimated, Sibericum only infected amoebas, single-celled organisms, and have not been known to infect humans. However, there might be similar viruses hidden away, buried inside the frozen wastelands that might prove catastrophic to humans. These superviruses have been able to be safely contained inside these environments. However, due to drilling and global warming destroying these ancient layers of permafrost, this could cause viable viruses to resurface and come back to life, which would be a recipe for disaster. In 2014, another discovery was made, this time by United Kingdom researchers, who found that certain plants, when infected with a bacteria called phytoplasma, turn them into zombies. When left behind by insects during pollination, the bacteria infects some plants, such as goldenrods. This infection causes the flowers to put out leaf-like extensions instead of their usual blooms. These leaf-like growths attract more insects, which allows the bacteria to travel widely and infect other plants. The bushy outgrowths are the result of the plant being stuck in a vegetative zombie state, unable to reproduce, and therefore progress to a forever young status. While the transformation does not cause the plant to die, the bacteria destroys the life cycle of the plants, as the phytoplasma can bend this host's will to make it grow the elements they require to spread and thrive. There's been little understanding of how this happens on a molecular level. Phytoplasma bacteria can also cause devastating crop disease, such as aster yellows, which causes significant yield losses in both grain and leaf crops like lettuce, carrots, and cereals. In short, the plants become the living dead. Eventually, they only serve the spread of the bacteria. From bugs to plants, we've discussed many ways different organisms can become zombified. But what about human beings? Can they be turned into the living dead too? In the 1990s, researchers decided to investigate whether Haitian zombies, reanimated but mindless humans, were a real possibility. They analyzed 3 individuals from Haiti whose communities had identified them as zombies. The first was a 30-year-old woman who alleged that she had died after falling ill. Her family then identified her walking around as a zombie 3 years after the incident happened. Another was a young man who had died at 18 and resurfaced after 18 years at a cockfight. The last subject was an 18-year-old woman who died and was rediscovered 18 years later. The researchers then examined the 3 victims and found that they were not under a spell. Instead, medical reasons could explain their zombification. Subject number 1 had catonic schizophrenia, a rare condition that makes a person act as though they are walking in a stupor. Subject number 2 had experienced brain damage and also had epilepsy. Subject number 3 simply had a learning disability. People with a chronic schizophrenic illness, brain damage, or learning disability are not uncommonly met with wandering in Haiti, and they would be particularly likely to be identified as lacking consciousness and memory, which are characteristics of a zombie. However, There is a psychiatric disorder called Cotard syndrome that can cause people to act like zombies. This is because they are under the delusion that they are dead or decomposing. It is unknown just how prevalent this condition is, but research suggests that it is a rare occurrence. Documented cases of people with Cotard syndrome are unsettling nevertheless. One case of a 53-year-old woman who was complaining that she was dead, smelled like rotting flesh, and wanted to be taken to a morgue so that she could be with dead people. Another was a 65-year-old man who had developed the belief that his organs, including his brain, had stopped working, and that even the house in which he lived was slowly but steadily falling apart. At some point, the man attempted to take his own life. Researchers report that his suicide note revealed that he wanted to kill himself as he feared spreading a deadly infection to the villagers, who accordingly might suffer from cancer. Does all of this mean that zombies are real, or is it just our own obsession with zombies in popular culture and folklore? Is it merely humanity's uneasy relationship with death manifesting itself? We here at Kinospiracy leave it for you to decide. This has been Kinospiracy. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you want to see more.